We have attorney Joy Walker here with us today. She is going to be our speaker to help us grow our businesses. She's worked with several businesses in various stages of their development, and we are pleased to have her with us. She has a bunch of information to provide, and she's leaving time for questions. So feel free to jot down the things that you want to know. Attorney Walker is also a professor, so she is not hesitant for people to ask their questions while she's going forward. So just relax, feel comfortable. This is a safe space, and we look forward to hearing the information Attorney Walker has to present to us.
Good evening, ladies, and thank you for allowing me to talk to this esteemed body today. My name is Joy Walker, and one of the reasons why your sister Yisha asked me to talk to you all about entrepreneurship is because I spent a number of years doing procurement and contracts for a state agency and have developed small business enterprises for government entities, along with helping individuals such as yourself become entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to share my screen today and provide you with some information that I'm hoping will be helpful in your pursuit of entrepreneurship. Okay, so I made it very, very easy. For us, Beginner's Guide to Entrepreneurship in Metropolitan Atlanta. And that is a big presumption that I've actually made, that what some of you want to begin your business ownership here in Metropolitan Atlanta. But this information will be poignant to any location. I wanted to give you some specifics for the Metropolitan Atlanta area so that you know the key steps, resources, and local insights. Atlanta is one of the fastest growing entrepreneurial hubs in the Southeast, with strong ecosystems for startups, minority founders, and small businesses. We have the largest growing population of film, fine tech, logistics. We have the infrastructure to support businesses. The metropolitan counties have special initiatives for small businesses, and they have incentives to invest in Atlanta and Georgia. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those. We have a diverse pool and a talented pool. And so this is a good place to start your business. So the advantages of starting here includes access to universities, Georgia Tech, Emory, Spelman, Morehouse, affordability, a thriving tech and film sector, and strong diversity in entrepreneurship. All right, so how do we begin the process? First and foremost, plan your business. Be clear about what it is that you want to do, who your target audience is, what your concept is for your business. Do some research, market research. Is the business that you want to start something that is new to the community? Is the community saturated with that kind of business? Test the minimum viability, meaning you need to do some anecdotal questioning to people that you see every day. Would you buy this product? Do you need these services? Refine your startup based on what you hear. Okay, build a business plan. Good business starts with a good plan. Make sure you know what your business is going to do, how many people are going to be a part of it, what's the mission, what's the vision, what kind of products or services are you going to be offering, what you're going to do to market yourself. Um, do your risk analysis and plan your growth strategy. A lot of small businesses start off with what I call too lofty of an idea. And so you need to make sure that you narrow your focus and then you can expand that focus as the business grows.
So I have a question,
Sure.
as I typically do. Um, On your previous slide, you talked about market research, finding out if people around you are interested in the products or services that you are considering, and then refining your idea based on what you hear. What's the scale of your research in terms of how many, is there a certain number of people that you should talk to, to find out if that is something that's valuable, or, do you vary the people that you're asking? How do you know who the people are to get that valuable information? You don't want to just talk to one person and then they kind of shoot down your idea. So how do you do that while still keeping your excitement going?
Define your target audience. Who do you want to market to? I know you want to market to everyone, but not everybody wants that widget or that service. So you need to find out who's the best person um, to market to. Okay. When I started my consulting business, I identified um, owners of companies, LLCs or S corps, that wanted to grow a specific concept, but they didn't know where to get the contracts from. So I knew that I needed to find small business um, individuals that wanted to get into the government contract business. So how do you find those folk? You're going to have to go to, for me, I needed to be around the entities that gave out those contracts. So those people were county procurement offices, city procurement offices, state procurement offices. When they have their question and answer period, you can find out who's interested in that, and you can. And I had to help them navigate those kinds of bid processes. I know that the bid process for the average person is a difficult process to traverse. And so, in order for me to know who I needed to find out that I needed to be my client, I would figure out who was having the hardest difficulties understanding the bid process and letting them know, yeah, for bidding on a government contract, me as a consultant is going to eat what I kill. So if you don't make any money, I don't make any money. So I'm going to do my best for you to win this contract so that I can get a piece of it. Or I identify small uh, municipalities that wanted to expand their procurement opportunities and wanted to make sure they had more people coming into their business opportunities that were 1 to 5 uh, principals. There were 1 to 5 employees in that particular business because they wanted to cater to the mom and pops of the world. So I would then tell them what I could do to define a set aside program that would allow them to set aside certain services or goods that a small business could bid on, and they would define what they meant by small: 1 to 5 individuals, less than $100,000 a year, those kind of things. So you have to define what your audience is and then get a subgroup of that audience. So if I want to appeal to mothers because of kids that are under the age of 12, because I have an after school program that I want to bring forward, I would then talk to a myriad of folk that in school settings. I would go to a PTA meeting and identify people from that PTA meeting and saying, hey, Is this something you're interested in? And tell me why you're not, or tell me why you would. And would you come and folk when it has to do with certain areas of interest in their lives are more than willing to talk to you about it because you tell them, hey, my name is Joy Walker. Here's my business card. I am developing a new business that does X. Can I just have 2 minutes of your time to tell me, is that useful? Or 30 seconds of your time. Would that be useful for a mother? I see that you have 3 children. Would you be interested in this kind of service or this kind of product? So that's
Okay.
how I would find my my niche or my target audience, so that you know specifically whether or not what you're thinking about is actually you can put a dollar amount on it. Because
Okay.
they'll tell you that they will say, "Hey," you say, "Well, how much would you pay a week to have somebody take out your trash every day, for instance?"
Hmm.
And somebody will say, "Oh, I live in an apartment complex. I believe that we would pay $30 a month, everybody in the apartment complex, if somebody'd come around and pick up all our trash from our doors twice a week." Well, if there's 100 people in
Hmm.
that, um, or 500 people in that apartment complex, I don't know about apartment complexes nowadays, that will pay a service of $30 a month for you to pick up their trash from their door um, twice a week. That might be, that's 2 hours worth of your time with a garbage collector, and you just bringing it to the dump. Maybe that's something you want to do. And so folk will tell you what they want, what they think that price point is.
Okay. And we do have a question that was placed in the chat. When you stated risk analysis, are you referring to SWOT analysis model for the business or something else?
SWOT analysis for the business. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? Yes. And that's specifically, you don't know necessarily how um, what your risk analysis would look at like because it's new to you, but you know that if you that you need to start small and revisit that SWOT analysis as you move forward. You've got to revisit it because your the dynamics of your company will change over time. And if you remain stagnant, you'll never grow.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So let's talk about registering and legal setup. First and foremost, you need to decide what kind of business entity you'd like to be. The easiest business entity is a sole proprietorship. Okay, that's just you hanging out a shingle, hanging out a sign saying, I'm going to be selling widgets. All right. Um, that has that's the easiest way. Cash in, cash out. That's the easiest way to know what you need to do. It also has it's the easiest way to make yourself liable for your actions or your inactions. And so I advise um, any new entrepreneur to either incorporate themselves as an entrepreneur or create an LLC, a limited liability company. A limited liability company has the same sort of effect as being a sole proprietorship, but it gives you the coverage of limiting your liability like a corporation does, and that you can get funds in your own name. You can have it's easier to manage. You don't have to have um, a board of directors. You don't have to have all of those things a corporation has. And so it's important that that you keep good records no matter what you do. But a limited liability company allows you to maneuver a little better. But you have to also understand that if you are a limited liability company, you can't go after a lot of the state funded contracts without bidding. A corporation, specifically a nonprofit corporation, can get a lot of the state and local contracts without having to bid. If they have a need, you are a not-for-profit, you can then go after that particular goods or services without the bid process. Uh, but there are good things and bad things about being a corporation. Corporation limits liability considerably. A nonprofit will allow you to bid on government contracts without having to go through the bid process. And but you have to keep good records. You have to have answer to the board. There's a lot of things that you have to do, and so you're more independent with an LLC.
And
The
so
first thing. Mhm.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in here. A lot of people feel like, okay, a sole proprietorship is easy. I can do it. It's just me. I don't have to go through all of those specific steps in order to set it up. And so it seems like it's difficult for some people to understand what makes an LLC different than a sole proprietorship. If you're still the only member in an LLC, you're the only person that's doing it, why would somebody do that instead of a sole proprietorship? What steps do they have to take to separate themselves?
Well, you have to, an LLC or corporation has to register with the Secretary of State. You are a sole proprietorship. You are an official business, but you're not legally recognized as a business to do business in city and government. A lot of funding comes from government. And so they need to be able to you look at the Secretary of State's office, that you have gone through the steps of being a business, that you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, that LLC has a separate um, tax ID number. That's very important. You still have to do bookkeeping, but you can roll over those funds really easily into your own personal account. Um, you still need to pay your taxes, but you can write off your profit and loss on your personal income tax. So if you are like a lot of African American women now, they are they're highly educated, highly motivated. They don't have children. They may have a home, and they're finding ways, and they want to do some other things. So they want to find ways to earn more money to do the things that they want to do. But salary comes with the added burden of paying um, taxes and not having anything to write off on your taxes. If you create an LLC, your LLC taxes are filed with your personal taxes, and your accountant can manage your write-offs to kind of balance the issues that are going on with your paying taxes. So if you filed your taxes from a salary as an individual taxpayer, you would have to pay back taxes. If you include an LLC with the profit and loss um, sheet, you may get back some of the money that you paid as an individual filing taxes. So it has great tax consequences. Sole proprietorship puts you in the same position you are when you are a employee, because you're taxed the same way. So the tax consequences for an LLC versus a sole proprietorship is is will encourage you to, in fact, register with the Secretary of State.
And that was one thing I wanted to highlight. So many people, even though, we're spending our own money to start this company, when you are a sole proprietor, you're using your own checkbook, you're swiping your own cards versus as an LLC, you have to make sure the business has its own money and you're not mixing your personal funds with the same money that you are bringing in so that you're creating a separate entity separate from yourself.
Okay, so you register with the Georgia Secretary of State. That is not difficult. They have online capabilities, and you don't necessarily need an attorney. I know attorneys should not say that, but you don't. What you need to do is make sure that your name as a corporation or LLC is unique enough so that you can then easily file the necessary paperwork. You need to obtain um, an employee identification number from the IRS, a tip. The easiest way to get an employee identification number from the IRS, you can get that online, is to ask that is to check the box that says you want to open up a bank account, and they will immediately give you one. If you want to say, I'm going to do this, that, and the third, then there's a lot more paperwork that you have to do. But if you check the box that says I need to open up a bank account because I am an LLC or a S corp or a sole proprietor, you're going to be able to do that very quickly and have your EIN number after you hit submit. So that's a tip that I want you to keep in mind. Register with the Department of Revenue and Labor. Well, you don't have to do that right away. You can do that while you are filing your taxes for the next year, but keep that in mind. Unless you have employees, if you are the only person, then you're fine till you file your taxes. If you have employees, then you must, and I repeat, must register with the Department of Revenue and the Department of Labor because there's employee taxes and things that need to be paid. Okay. One of the other things that I want to talk to you about registering your business, you have to, if it might be advantageous that if you call yourself one thing, but you want to be known as another thing, that you register a trade name at your county clerk's office, Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, and no matter wherever you decide you're going to open up your business. So if I want to be called, my company is called Joy Walker Consulting LLC, but I want to be called Joy Corporate as my trade name. I would then have to register Joy Corporate at the clerk's office in Fulton County where I reside, where my business resides. You have to apply for a business license in order to do business in that city or that municipality that you want to do business in. That is not the same if you have a license. If you're licensed as an attorney, as a practitioner, you don't need to necessarily get a business license because your actual license for your employment will cover that. If you're going to hang a shingle and bring in clients to a specific location, then you're going to need a business license. But if you are doing it as online, you won't necessarily need to have a business license in that jurisdiction. Okay, funding sources and finances. All right, so one of the things that you want to do is to find out whether or not there's money out there to help you with your business startup. I advise everyone starting a business that wants to have a brick and mortar or employees to talk to somebody that knows numbers. I would suggest the CPA, but that costs money. There may be a bookkeeper that does the same thing as accountant that won't be as expensive, that can tell you keeps the books on a regular basis for a number of entities to give you what percentage will you have to pay in employee taxes. What are you looking at if you want to have a brick and mortar shop? But if you are thinking that most of your business is going to be telework kind of business, then I suggest that you have a mailing address that is a P.O. box, not necessarily the United States Postal Service, but there are mailbox services that will give you a physical address with a unit number that serves as your P.O. box number. That looks way better on your uh, business cards, on your stationery, on your email address that you have a an a city a what you call it a physical address as opposed to a PO box. I for what I do consistently give them a PO box for what I do because my work requires that I go to a location and give them and be a part of their team in finding new ways to do business. All right, so we also have local grants and loans. Invest Atlanta is a small business improvement grant, ACE access to capital for entrepreneurs. Um, Atlanta Micro Fund, Lift Fund Georgia, Pathway, Lending Georgia, SBA Georgia District Office gives 7A, 504, and also microloans. And I list a few more that are on the screen. Explore funding through personal savings, loans, and grants. Grants are not easy for profit they're not easy, period, but they're especially hard for profit entities. So you need to look to or visit your economic development center at the county where you reside or the city where you reside or both for them to tell you what kind of funding they have. There are a number of small business incubators that will give you space for a nominal fee. There are office share uh, places out there that will also be economically viable because of the low cost involved. And so there's a number of ways to identify funding for small businesses through local, state, and city entities. Um, and county entities. State, not so much, but county and city entities are a better place. And then you can also look to uh, those corporate entities that sponsor small business that their goods or services align with their corporate goals and missions. There are also Atlanta entrepreneurial ecosystems, and there's one at Georgia Tech. Create Atlanta is another one. A Start ME Atlanta. There's some co-working and innovation hubs. Atlanta Tech Village, The Gathering Spot, Russell Innovation Center, and a Center for Civic Innovations. So, how do you build your business? You need to network, network, network. You are starting at, you need to start with the folk that are surrounding you in this space. There are 40 plus of us. And if each one is tasked with telling two other people, you have now tripled your um, triple your marketing. And so it's important that you first talk to the people that are around you and have them um, be a part of your success story. You need to partner strategically and hire individuals strategically. Um, there are a lot of co-opting kinds of things. If you tell somebody, I need X from you, and I will give you Y as a part of the business. So you are an expert in social media. And that is worth 5% of my business for you to do my marketing and social media. And so or this what I do, eat what I kill. So um my strategy is to make sure that when I'm working with small businesses, that I do what I do, and when they get their first check, I get my check too. If I'm working with a government entity, then I structure a payment schedule that meets with my deliverables. Um, okay, so develop, engage, measure, and scale. Develop a marketing strategy. Make sure you engage local communities. Have some KPIs that measure what it is that you're doing. Customer feedback, talking to people, and then make sure that you are adjusting the scale and sustainability of your product or services to grow alongside you and not deplete all your energy.
So what's the KPI? I'm sorry.
You work for the feds. You don't know,
I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people
key
may not
performance indicators.
know.
Key performance indicators. I hear you. Yeah, that's a good question. Key performance indicators. What for you says success? It can't just be about the money. That's important. But key performance indicators that I have reached 40 people this month. And of those 40 people, um, 10 of them have purchased. I reached 40 more people, and 15 of them have purchased or have used. Or if you are a smaller scale consultant, I have put myself out there for 5 businesses this month, and I have landed a contract that is worth X amount of dollars. What do I do the next month so that I can maintain the level of performance, the level of excellence with this first contractor, even though it's a small amount or it's whatever the amount is. I need to make sure that that amount, that what I do for this company reflects who I am in my business, so that they will be satisfied with my work, and then they will send me to someone else. Word of mouth is the best way to grow a business for a small business owner.
And so we have some other questions.
Okay.
Would contractors or day labor count as employees for the Georgia Department of Revenue for employee taxes?
Say that one more time.
Would contractors or day labor count as employees for the Georgia Department of Revenue for employee taxes?
No. Contractors you should have a independent contract for them so that they know that they are responsible. They're 1099 employees, and day laborers are also 1099 employees. But be careful about the ramifications of hiring individuals, even as contractors, that are not authorized to work in the United States. Because sooner or later that will catch up with you, especially if you do that um, consistently. For instance, you are in the construction business. You can hire independent contractors that come in per job, meaning they got to lay the tile, they got to you can do that, but you need to make sure that your paperwork, the paperwork that's signed assigned by someone who is authorized to work in the United States.
Got it.
Just make sure that when there's the ever increasing intervention from ICE, that you have your paperwork. I hired Joy Walker, who's a United States citizen, and she's the one I hired to do this job. Her laborers have absolutely nothing to do with me. That is an issue with Joy Walker and who she hires. But I hired Joy Walker Construction to do my job,
Okay.
do this job.
And we have another question. How can we think about starting a business in the period of AI now? Things feel very transformational. I'm concerned about figuring out what business may succeed in spite of it or thrive with AI tools, or what business to stay away from that will be totally disrupted with AI.
All right. So AI is an excellent tool for a number of things, but AI is only good as the person entering the information. So garbage in and goes is garbage out. I can tell you that a lot of individuals are using is using are using AI as a mechanism to reduce their man hours in work. And they're getting caught behind the eight ball because the information presented is, we call it hallucinatory. It doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't be scared of doing a job because there's AI out there. You have the expertise. You can tell you can tell whether or not this will actually work or not work based on what you uh, what your expertise requires you to know. I don't, it's just like I was on North Carolina A&T's campus the other day and I saw the little robot that delivers foods. So I asked my niece and nephew, do you get the robots to deliver food to you? And one said no, because they weren't sure whether or not it was going to get to them. Sometimes the kids turn it over, and so the contents have now spilt all over the place, never gets delivered. A lot of things going on. There are some drawbacks to innovation. There's drawbacks to AI, so you have to be very, very careful. I use AI for legal research, and I am very cautious to do the extra step of making sure the case law matches what the results. And I'm using a legal database, so it should be all the I's dotted, T's crossed, but not necessarily. So I got to then cross-reference to make sure that I am doing what I need to do to make sure that the case law is right. So, with that said, don't be afraid of AI, because a human individual, an individual can will make the difference. There are too many people out there that want to talk to people and not answering services or computers, or press the button, or they always press zero because they want to talk to an operator. So we have not reached the stage in life where we are going to be overrun by technology and AI, because folk want the human touch. So make sure that you give them that human touch so that they can um, value your services, value your goods.
And then one more question for now. Do you need to be registered with the SBA or other agencies to apply for funding?
Federal funding gives the federal criteria. State funding gives state criteria. SBA is a small business association, and quite a bit of the funding does not require you to do that. There's special programs that require that you be registered, but registration in these programs are not difficult. Being a small business certified is difficult because there's a lot of steps you have to go through. And that's a whole different discussion for another time. I couldn't cover all those pieces. But as a small business entrepreneur at this stage, I would stick with looking for funding in state, local, city and county funding because you don't need, you don't have to have all those technical um, processes fulfilled to register and look for those kinds of things. So no, not all federal funds require SBA, but some do. Okay, so let's talk about what's next. Maintain and evolve. Okay. Make sure that you stay compliant with Georgia and local regulations. So if you're a licensed clinician, you need to make sure you keep that license. Make sure you take your CLEs, uh, continue learning and adapting. Make sure you file your annual renewals because it'll say um, non-compliant, then you have to pay extra money and those kinds of things. Monitor the trends. If you are working with a widget that is 3 years old and everybody's gotten one that's newer, you need to find a way um, to make up the difference by adding something else of value with that to that particular widget. Okay, local resources. So I talked about InvestLand, I talked about Georgia SBDC. I know you all are tired of acronyms. And so SBDC at Georgia State University is a free business planning assistance. So that's at Georgia State. Russell Innovation Center. I don't know if you're downtown, you know about the Russell Enterprises, and that's a small incubator, small business incubator. Startup Atlanta, we talked about that, City of Atlanta Business Licensing Portal. The other thing that I want for you to think about when you talk about local resources is who's going to how do you develop mentors? How do you develop networks? You have a lot of folk here that are participating in this, and that's one of your networks. But I suggest that you join your county's Chamber of Commerce. You go to those meetings. You join the Atlanta Business League. Their membership, there is a cost to be a member, but it's usually a nominal cost. And remember, all these things you can write off on your taxes because they're a business expense. That you look at Women Entrepreneurial Initiatives, WEI. That's a WEI. That is a initiative that's up and running. You make sure that you are at your local commission's meeting, and when they have a ability to talk about something happening in the community that affects your business, you are there putting in your position on it. Because when someone sees you, and those are broadcast, and there are people there that are always watching, you will know that somebody will say, "Oh, I saw Attorney Broderick at this meeting. I know that she does X. Um, let's look at the state bar and look her up and find out whether or not she can do this for us." And that's because you need to be seen. Okay, next steps. Validate your idea. do your business plan. I usually call it a white paper. And it doesn't have to have all of the bells and the whistles. If you have a good, strong outline of everything that you want to do, and then you build on that as you getting yourself revved up. Start by putting pen to paper. Okay. Register at the Secretary of State, set up your finances. Um, like I said, if you want a brick and mortar kind of business, then you're going to need to quickly set up your um, your bank account. And I told you the best ways when you set up your LLC or whatever you're doing, sole proprietorship, corporation, S corp, to tell them you want to set up your bank account. That's the fastest way to get anything done, and they will give it to you immediately. Leverage local business, local resources like the Chamber of Commerce, like the Atlanta Business League, and then market smartly and grow. Stay persistent. All someone can tell you is no, and then is anything different for you? Okay. Um, let me talk. I'm going to take questions, and but let me talk about some things that I want you all to be aware of. Local, what common pitfalls to avoid. Doing a brick and mortar business and you don't have your business license. You need your business license. Mixing finances. Unless you are a consultant, meaning that you're the only one that you're concerned with. You don't need a cash register. You don't have any employees. It's just you and it's your brain power and the way you're going to do it. You need to make sure you set up separate bank accounts. Because you don't want somebody reaching into your personal finances to satisfy a debt that your business incurred. Okay. Um, Skipping contracts. If someone wants to work with you as a consultant, somebody wants to work with you as an independent contractor, write a contract. That spells out what they're specifically going to do, that they're an independent contractor, that they're responsible for any of the governmental taxes and fees, and make sure that you tell them what their scope of work is and what are their deliverables and when they're to do it. So they're getting paid X for Y to be delivered at Z. Make sure everybody signs it and dates it, everybody has a copy, and everybody sticks to it. Do not ignore zoning. One of the things that you have to be very careful of is to make sure that you are not conducting a business in a residential area where you need to have been zoned for commercial. Okay. Little bit of a caveat. There are some businesses that you can have your a personal or residential address for. If you ask the county to give you a variance because you're not going to have more than 3 customers there a day or whatever the county decides is appropriate. But you need to get a variance for that. Excuse me. So you usually find that when a private entity is doing something like violin lessons and voice lessons or piano lessons, and you have people coming to your home for those kinds of lessons. And so if you live in a neighborhood, you tell the zoning folk that from 6 to 8, I have 3 children coming in for piano lessons on a daily basis, or from 5 to 8, or whatever it is, whatever the going time for piano lessons are. And I need a variance because there are going to be people coming in once a week from Monday through Friday to do piano lessons. More likely than not, they'll give you that variance. Um, the question is, do you need a zoning variance for consulting services business that is headquartered out of your home? If you're the only one working, you don't need a variance because no one coming to your house. If you don't conduct business at your house, and most consultants do not, most consultants go to the client. And so you can, in fact, identify workspaces, shared workspaces that you can rent for a period of time that might be a bigger fit if you needed to see clients. But not if you do not routinely have visitors coming to your home, you don't need to ask the Board of Commissioners for a variance. A lot of people conduct business at the house. They have people that come to the house all the time, and the reason why they get in trouble, you're welcome, Miss Simmons. The reason why they get in trouble is because their nosy neighbors tell on them. It's not because the county cares. The nosy neighbors are like, I don't know who's coming to Miss Walker's house. I see Miss Joy all the time. There's always people driving in and out of her. Yeah, that's why. That's why they get in trouble. It's the nosy neighbors. It's not the county coming down, oh, there's a lot of traffic going through Miss Joy's house. No, that's not what it is. It is the neighbors. And so if you got hateful neighbors, then please don't get yourself in trouble by having people come to your house. Right? Haters gonna hate. That is the truth.
And somebody, Ms. Simmons had another question in
Mhm.
reference to when starting an independent consulting business, would you recommend establishing a set list of services or products, or rather market skill sets that can be applied according to the need of a potential client? Additionally, can you speak to the ways that you've been able to scale your consulting service and resources that you've used, and do you subcontract?
Okay. Um, I have a in government procurement, there are certain people that have the same set of skill sets that I have, and we volley back and forth things that we handle. So, for instance, during COVID, um, when I stopped working for the agency I worked for because they were not making the sister happy. And so one of my colleagues said, oh, I just heard from a friend of mine that Henry County Water Authority needs to branch out the way they do business because the commissioners are saying we don't attract enough local small businesses to bid on the contracts, right? Anything to deal with water, sewer, road, drainage are millions of dollars to the trucks, to the tree cutting, to the grass cutting, all of that, right? And so you have to have a certain amount of insurance coverage to get those bids. You have to have a certain amount of um, personnel, experience. And so we needed to figure out a way to include small businesses. So because we got word of mouth, and we both worked in procurement and contracting, we sent a proposal to them that was within their threshold authority, that it didn't have to go out of bid to bid because we were consultants to identify. And so we created a set aside program. Okay. So for me and what I do, it's usually referrals. And I work a full-time job. And so when I do this kind of stuff as referrals, I do them after hours, on the weekends, those kinds of things, because I work a full-time job and they own my time full time. I'm also Jamaican and need more than one job. So I have to have more than one job. I'm not that lazy. I have to have more than one. So that's one of the things. And that's particularly so that it's word of mouth. If if there is a need for something, we don't have any, who I partner with, we don't have we share the wealth because we can't. So for instance, you're a full-time consultant. This is what you do. And I am behind the scenes doing the work, and I need a face to something. I will hire a consultant to be the face of this project because I can't do it because I have a full-time job. So yes, we do send some things out, but I'm here to tell you that you need to network, and you need to find your people. Because when your people say, "Hey girl, I got you. What you need to do? What we need to do? We need to set up. We need to tell so and so in Douglas City to Douglasville. Dot 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 dot. They are not dot 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 dot. Okay, so we'll drop a proposal. Are we gonna get Miss Thomas? Because I see her smiling at me. Are we gonna get Miss Thomas? We gonna call Miss Thomas and tell her we got a job for her? Okay, yeah, we do that. But that is niche business, and I don't necessarily look for consulting businesses. They usually come to me. Um, and I'm not as young as Attorney Broderick. I've been around the block a few times. I know a lot of people because I'm one of those women that say, "Oh, really? Y'all gonna miss me when I go." And I put my purse on my shoulder and figure out what else I'm gonna do. Because I'm Jamaican, I got more than one job. All right. With that said, um, it is consultant just means who wants your services. They're not hiring me because I'm a lawyer. They're hiring me because I have an expertise in a specific subject matter. So one of the things that um, Attorney Broderick said was that I teach. I've been with Strayer University for the last 15 years. I teach government contract law. I teach business law. And so when somebody says to me, "Hey, I'm doing this because Aisha is my friend, and she wanted to make sure her people knew about entrepreneurship." But I have other people that do this as a business and say, "Hey, Joy, I need you to come talk to my class." And so that always comes with an honorarium of some sort or whatever. And so with that said, um, it's networking. So and I tell Aisha every day when she comes in my office, "Girl, I'm trying to retire. I'm trying to retire." So I'm just trying to figure out how to retire. And then I'm going to be doing consulting full time because I want to be able to come and go as I please. I'm just trying to get my years in with the state, and leave all the good stuff and the to fighting for the rights of other people to Attorney Broderick, and I'm going to be drinking pina coladas on somebody's beach while I consult with my computer in my hand. So, making a very long story, and I told you lawyers like to talk a lot. Making a very long story short, yes, I do subcontract out work. It just depends on when you need it, but this is not my full-time job. And so I don't necessarily go looking for work. I actually get called and ask, "I need a proposal for X, Y, and Z." And then I give them some dates and times and then give myself a schedule and tell them what I'm going to charge. I also identify individuals. Some individuals will tell me they've started a business and they want to do X, Y, and Z. The other piece to that is that you have to be careful that if you are helping somebody grow a business, that you're not inputting all of your thought process into the business. You're not the expert in their business. So, for instance, Attorney Broderick says, "I want to teach people how to do wills." I don't know what she wants to do. I ask her, "Well, what does that look like to you? How is that going to be set up? How are you going to make a profit after you teach people how to make wills?" Right? And then when she thinks about it, says, "Well, maybe wills is not what I need to be teaching people how to do." Right? Maybe I need to be teaching people how to set up their finances so that a will is not necessary. And so that she can get paid on. So if Joy wants to figure out how to set up her parents' house, car, and bank accounts so that they don't have to probate it, that's something that Attorney Broderick could do and show them how to set those things up. And just anecdotally, if you think it doesn't work, it does. I buried both of my parents and didn't have to probate an estate because I set it up. Because when you probate an estate, you got to pay estates this, that, the taxes, and you file it in the that. I didn't have to do any of that because I set it all up so that I did not have to do that. That is not my specialty. That's but so don't nobody asked me to do it. But there are ways that you can get around the whole probate stuff, and I didn't want to be bothered with it. But you have to also deal with family members that are not greedy and the people that you trust. So you've got people fighting over the $2 that their parents left, and but I'm just telling you. So you've got to know, you've got to stop putting into somebody's head what you think their business should look like. You're not the expert. The person that wants the business needs to know what makes this business right for them, because it's got to be a passion of yours. It's got to be something you love so that you know um, how it works. The other piece to this, and then I'm going to open it up for just questions, is that you also have to learn to pivot. And I'm not going to mention any names or any businesses, but I'm going to give you a hypothetical. There is a business person that owns a very popular service, but the service that she started off with was nuanced and niche and interesting, but it was only interesting for a moment in time. And so she grew the business and grew the business too quickly and lost it. An entrepreneur came in there and got her back all the business. And so a, a body of people got together to try to help her keep business. And the people are saying, and she may just say her business was made out of she did the business and her niche was red lipstick, red lipstick, red lipstick. And the red lipstick was the red lipstick that everybody was wearing. But we don't wear red lipstick for everything, every time, any place, everywhere. We don't do that. But all she wants to sell is red lipsticks. She wants to keep it the same. And the it's moved. The niche thing has moved. So now you've got to learn to pivot, because what you're doing in the beginning that worked really, really well, your audience may be fickle. So you can still um, wear the red lipstick, but maybe you need to call it a bright lip gloss or a red lip stain. You can't just keep calling it the red lipstick. And so one of the things that I want you to be very cautious about is that to make sure that you know your audience. So maybe they liked the red lipstick every day. They stand in line around the block to buy your red lipstick. But now the color this season is peach lipstick. You still get to sell your red lipstick, but now sell your peach too. Get some peach to sell, made the same way. And so learn how to pivot, because if you don't learn how to pivot, your business will grow, and become stagnant because you can't pivot. I know the business is personal to you. I know that you want it to operate the same way because this is your niche. You want to call it Widget City, Widget City, Widget City, and you want to market to certain people, but other people but they don't like the name Widget. Oof. I want you to call it something different. Widget sounds, well, maybe you need to say widget introducing bucket, but you've got to be able to pivot.
And
Okay.
yes, Erica put in the chat, please complete the form. We need the feedback to know, how you feel about this. And we are going to open it up for questions, but we want to make sure we get your input before you go. So while
Please
some
say nice things about me. I'm vain. No, that's okay.
So, are there any questions? Thank you, Attorney Walker, for providing that information. Um, you feel free to come off mute and ask your questions or put them in the chat.
Or raise your hand so that that at least somebody can see you. I'm going to try to put this in their view so that I can see everybody. But I love to answer your questions. I think that the fact that you're here, you're 40 plus people strong in here trying to um, make your money, make your mark on this world and leave a lasting legacy is a beautiful thing. And so start small, but make sure that your plan is and don't be afraid to start. Your plan is concrete, but don't be afraid to start. It's going to cost you $100 to file with the Secretary of State. It's going to cost you zero to file with the IRS. Two things you've completed with for $100, and you get to write that $100 off on your taxes. Okay.
So while we're waiting for questions, I always have questions.
Okay.
Um, so for people who have full-time jobs and
Mm.
want to start something, what advice do you have in terms of kind of branching out into something that may not be what your day job is, but you are interested in trying something new?
Okay. First and foremost, you need to figure out what the policy is at your job as to whether or not you can um, have another job. And make sure that you are clear about the hours when you ask that question, that you're working in the evenings, you're working so that they know that there's no overlap. One of the things that my executive director says is that I know everybody's working another job in here. I see it. I don't know how she sees it, but she just feels it in her bones. And every time I hear it, I laugh. And so make sure that you figure out what the policy is at your job. Okay. But what is it that um, what is your passion? My passion is shopping. That's a passion of mine. My pocketbook doesn't like it very much, but that's a passion of mine. So to make myself feel better is because once again, I have to have more than one job. I buy too much stuff and then I sell it on Poshmark. Um, so look at the ways, if look at what you're passionate about and find out the best way to make someone else excited about your passion,
Mm.
right? So, one of the things for those of you all that are, I'm gonna give you an example. One of the things for those of you that are creative, one of the things that I have a good friend of mine does is that personalized, she makes handmade personalized cards. When you're thinking about giving a person a gift for their 45th, their 50th, their 30th birthday, and this is a person that has everything. They don't really need stuff. Or even or you want to give them something that commemorates their wedding, their baby blessing, their whatever it is. And you make a handmade card that is just intricate and beautiful. That when you give somebody that card and they open it up, they're going to keep that card. So if you're talented in a way that I am not talented and you can do cards of those natures, then you can make cards and put them on Facebook Marketplace or put them on Etsy. And do you know how many things I bought out for Etsy because I wanted something one of a kind to give as a gift? Think about price points. You start off at um, a invaluable price point. Your handmade stuff means something to you, and so you want it to mean something to somebody else. But you have to know what the market is. But if you do a handmade card for like $10 or $15, and it's made out of good paper and it's got really intricacies, and you've done things, um, and it's just beautiful, somebody will buy that card for $15, put a gift card in it, and that will be a keepsake for somebody that they'll put in um, a frame for the rest of their life because you were thoughtful enough to hand make a card or buy a handmade card that was specially for this occasion, and I'm going to keep it. So I've bought things off of Etsy that um, to commemorate lots of things, and so find a marketplace for it, and you
Okay.
will.
And
Somebody asked a question about counseling.
well, before that, someone asked what legal issues can one encounter if an individual has a profitable online Etsy store or YouTube channel that's not registered as an official business?
You're a sole proprietor, and so you're gonna deal with all the proprietor stuff. If you don't pay taxes, the IRS is gonna get you. You need to keep good books. So it's a tax consequences. You're not gonna have a problem with the business. You're gonna have a problem if you ain't paying your taxes. So you need to clear all your money, all the monies from your taxes. That's your issue. It's the taxes.
And then the
Mhm.
question about the counselor, um, Ms. Poole says, I'm currently in school to be a counselor. Is there something I can do now to prepare for starting a business for my future private practice?
Yes, Miss Poole. Get my information from Miss Broderick. I can give you a lot of stuff you can do right now because of who I worked with before. But that would take up so much. I mean, I could literally give you a ton of things. I don't want to take up everybody's time. If she give you my email address, I will call you and let you know. Counseling, social work, um, um, psychology majors, anybody that wants to do something in that realm, just after this meeting's over with, give Miss Broderick a call, and she'll give you my email and just reach out to me because there are a lot of avenues open. It just depends on how deep you want to do and what category of individuals you want to work with. If you want to work with youth, you want to work with adults, you want to work with aged, I can help you with all of that.
And along
Gratis,
those lines,
just gratis. I'll just give you that information and let you know where to get it. I'm not doing it because I need, but I just don't want to waste everybody's time talking about something that's niche like that.
and along those lines, Ms. Franklin says, for MBA students, what are some resources you recommend for business related scholarships or groups that maybe it's supposed to say groups that are great for networking?
Well, networking, your sorority, start there. Um, but you're going to have to join the the organizations that have student membership. There are so many of them. You would be surprised. And the student membership is either free or nominal, like $10, just so that you can fill out the paperwork and they feel as if you've done something. And you have to go to the meetings. Um, there's there's always a person in the meeting that's going to look at you and take, oh, well, I see Miss Aisha every time. Let me find out what I can. There are women and men at these meetings that want to know what are you trying to do? And so it's important that you actually attend the meetings, not just sign up. And when they have um the social services activities, and we're going to go and we're going to deliver backpacks to the kids at school. You got to go. You have to be seen. And when when somebody says, "Hey, so and so needs a job," then people go like, "All right, let me see. I know. Let me see that resume, girl. We got to fix that resume." young man, we got to fix that resume. I need you to write a resume that says I need a job and not this was hobbies, those kinds of things. So with that said, there are numerous organizations. If you just go into Google and says all women uh, women organizations that um, deal with public policy, and then you'll see a ton across the state. Volunteer for
So,
somebody's campaign. That's the
so
best way to meet with people. Mhm.
we have a few minutes left. There
Okay.
are some more questions in the chat, but I think we may have to save those for when you join us again next month. But in terms of your, please, please, please fill out the survey. There was a link in the chat describing that. And I will make sure that Attorney Walker, can you put your email in the
Sure. In the
chat
chat.
for
Sure.
whoever
Sure.
wants it? Because I know there are going to be people.
All right.
Aisha, can
And
you go
somebody
back
asked a really
and
important
share that
question.
screen? I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'll put it in the chat. It's okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Aisha, if you can go back and share the PowerPoint, there's that last slide that has the QR code for the survey.
Oh,
Thank you.
there
And
you
else,
go.
perfect. And I will stop our recording.